Hi, Eugene here. I'm currently driving into the office. It's been such a privilege and so refreshing to be able to go into the office again after, 6.5 weeks of not being able to do so. I'm personally over this robbery of people's freedoms, and I think it's been enough. I think the people of every country that's in lockdown should start opening up the country themselves. And personally, I will do what I can do as well to help and to support that. I think every person can take responsibility for their own well-being. People can take responsibility for safeguarding those around them. I'm personally not worried at all. If I catch a flu, then I catch a flu, and that's how it is. I think my immune system also needs interaction with other people. It needs touch. It needs to be around other people to be stimulated, to be strengthened. I think that's common sense. So I think one can be responsible without destroying economies, without destroying people's lives, and without transferring even more and more and more wealth to the elite from the average person. And that's actually the reason for this video. Now, we've heard of unprecedented monetary stimulus that central banks, especially the US Fed, we're now looking at about $10 trillion already of liquidity that they have made available between the Fed and the US government. Now, the first recipients of a newly printed dollar, and bear in mind that those dollars are not backed by anything. It's simply a bunch of numbers that the central bank type into the computer system, and magically currency appears. Right, there's always a debt to be paid, number one, for that currency, because they buy debt instruments with it, even now in the private sector or in the corporate sector. And the same goes for a lot of other central banks. They see themselves as the saviors of the economy. They are not willing to let the economy go through the pains it needs to go through to emerge stronger on the other side. And of course, the job isn't made easier by governments that are continuously hampering the process and continuously stripping people of their freedom to make a living. Right, so what happens is the new currency that gets created is the beneficiary of that new currency. The beneficiaries, the first recipients are the beneficiaries. So if you look at the $10 trillion in the US, for instance, there's a few hundred billion of those, I believe, that's gone to households, that's gone to working people that are supposed to work and that lost their jobs, etc. A few hundred billion. The vast majority, trillions and trillions of dollars, are going into the corporate space, are going into Wall Street. Right, so for every new dollar that gets printed, the currency supply is increased and the currency value is diluted. So dollars don't have value of themselves. When they enter into the economy, they take on the characteristics of value, and the way in which they do that is by removing the value from the dollars already in existence. So if your monetary base is $5 trillion and now it becomes $6 trillion, it means that, or let's say it's 4 trillion and now becomes 5 trillion for an ease of a calculation. It means that it dilutes the value of the existing currency by 25% at the expense of the people that hold that existing currency and at the benefit of the recipients of the new currency. So if the central banks, if the US Fed talk about how much of a heroes they are for helping with this liquidity in the market, liquidity is simply that. It's a transfer of wealth from the people that's currently working hard to earn their funds to those that are not working for this money, that just receive it basically for free or at 0 or 0.5% interest rate. That is what liquidity is. It's a transfer of wealth to hardworking middle class individuals, to the corporate capitalism, crony capitalists. Now, I'm personally a big fan of capitalism. It's the best system there is. I'm a big fan of the free market. It's the best system there is, but let the free market sort themselves out. Let the free market reward those that have taken risks and that have increased and added value to their society, to their world around them, and let the free market punish those who has been reckless with other people's money. And if they are now taking strain and they can't survive, then that is their bad, and the free market will have the last say. Let that happen. So I think it's high time that the world start to wake up and realize that the monetary system that we're in, the Keynesian monetary system of just printing money in order to fund governments, have done nothing but bad for humanity and as a whole. That's my perspective. You may disagree with me, but it's impossible to go to war in an Austrian economic situation. It's impossible because Keynesian economics just allow you to print money, to print currency, and to do with it as the government pleases. That's how wars happen, because they don't cost the government anything. They just print currency and they use it for the war, and other people in the future generations have to pay it back. It's increasing, it's causing inflation, and it's putting strain on people's resources, and that is why we need to get out of the system. That is why we need to own real assets. We need to own monetary assets. That's a protection against inflation, because this currency that gets printed, this new liquidity, the stealing, the theft of wealth of average people, to the large corporates and to the governments and to the Fed, the central banks of the world, will mean that your value of your currency is going to dilute immensely. We are soon, over the next few months, maybe a year, we're going to head into super high inflation pretty much across the world, and that is why you want monetary assets. That is why you want gold, you want silver, you want Bitcoin, even a privacy coin like Monero as well. And when the time is right and the ratios are right, and the gold to silver ratio and the gold to stock market ratio have provided a signal that shares are now cheaper to buy and are now a better investment, and that companies are in fact turning a profit and not only pushing up their share price through share buybacks that just enrich the executives, then it will be a time to look more seriously at shares and properties, etc., the like of that. So yeah, that's just a couple of thoughts that I wanted to share. Feel free to leave your comments, feel free to share the video, and I hope you have a great day.